It's been a really exciting and informative earnings season. I want to talk about 5 things I learned listening to companies in the business of well-being, providing products and services that help us live a life of vitality, purpose, resilience, and engagement. And it runs the gamut from Exponential Fitness, which is, I think, about a $2 billion company, to Target, that provides emotional and play-based and financial well-being for people who are trying to lead their best lives, and a whole bunch of companies in between. RH, the company formerly known as Restoration Hardware, a really high-end luxury retailer dealing in place-based well-being. And then Tractor Supply Company, another place-based well-being dealer, but targeting a very different market. And then we've got Peloton and Lululemon and Academy Sports and TJX companies. So a really great mix of companies providing well-being to consumers and organizations around the world. So first thing I learned was listen to these calls to hear the leadership directly from them, hear about their vision, their strategy and execution, which I'll talk about in a moment. But it's a chance for them to have the microphone in a long format, right? An hour basically, to deliver prepared remarks, and then also take Q&A from a range of analysts. Gary Friedman of RH, the company I mentioned, I'm always a fan, and he really hit it out the park, in my opinion. Lulu leadership, Dick's Sporting Goods, TJX, they all had really solid performances, really convincing and compelling. And in a lot of cases, these leadership teams have been at these companies for a long time. They know the history, they know the cycles, the culture of their company. They've molded and they built the DNA. So they have a good, strong call that provides confidence in what's to come for both analysts and then individual investors listening on the call. Other companies, by the way, they've been challenged by the macro environment. So many changes the last couple of years, changes in interest rates recently. So it's, or maybe new leadership where they're still getting their footing. And again, it's just a chance to hear that directly from them over a long format. So like I said, Gary Friedman, even though in a challenged environment for a luxury, company selling luxury furniture, but still you could hear the confidence, the vision, the understanding of what was going on. That's the next thing to listen for on these calls is strategy and execution. You can hear who's doing it really well. I talked about that already. Lululemon, very clear strategy, incredible execution on it. Dick's Sporting Good, another one. TJX. I even thought Topgolf, Callaway, really interesting call to hear on their longer term strategy, that they've merged these companies together and how they're going forward to balance this kind of new golf, this modern golf ecosystem, as they called it. So really hearing that strategy. Same thing for a company like Tractor Supply. And I mentioned Exponential Fitness, that's growing boutique fitness, but also doing a lot of really interesting digital things. So hearing the strategy, hearing the execution, another reason and to hear the difference between companies and hear directly from their leadership. Third point that's really important related to that and related to strategy and execution is that the balance between physical space and digital space both have a huge role in the well-being economy. And this was going on before the pandemic, but obviously the pandemic accelerated this. And now we're trying to find a balance with work from home, right? With things like Zoom, with online fitness versus physical fitness, e-commerce versus going into retailers. So you have this, this dance, this battle, this rapprochement between physical and digital, and each company's got to find a different balance. And some, back to those earlier points, the leadership, the strategy, execution makes sense. Lulu's a really interesting example. They've got hundreds of stores, and they're opening another 100 in China. On the other hand, they've done a ton in the digital space with people ordering, getting product drops, and also they're moving heavily into the digital fitness space to lead people into their stores, into their communities. So it's a balance. And then there's companies like Chewy, which are pure play e-commerce, but at the same time, they're building a huge fulfillment center. So there's this balance here that you have to listen to and understand, especially in a rising interest rate environment. So even that Topgolf, even though they're building these really big facilities for people to come out and enjoy the experience of this product, the social well-being, spending time with their friends, play space in a fun environment with food and beverage, they put a lot of money into their reservation system. And that was part of the reason their results were strong, was this digital infrastructure they were building to feed people into their physical spaces. So it's a balance, and you really have to listen to it because it's different for every company. After that, related to physical is, wow, there's a lot of talk of international expansion. Some companies are opening physical stores, right? Expanding, Airbnb going into new markets. Exciting because the opening, post-COVID opening has been different in Asia. Cross-border travel has been different. So listen for that. And the reason it's super interesting is because as much as they want to globalize and go out there, there's a clear anti-globalization movement going on in the world, whether it's a land war in Europe. The US and China are developing some kind of new Cold War where you have hot air balloons shot down and planes crossing in front of each other and boats crossing in front of each other, and maybe there's spy places on sites on Cuba. So it's just a contrast. So you have to be aware if your company, if your investment is one that's going global, and by the way, well-being is global. It has been for years, and especially in the wake of the pandemic, everybody has a understanding of the importance of different types of well-being: social and emotional, physical, place-based, right? Occupational, financial. We've all been through it the last 3 or 4 years. So everybody understands it no matter where they are in the world. And so you can go global in understanding where your company is that you're investing in and what the risk is something to just keep in mind, especially for the back half of this year. The last point I want to make that I thought was really interesting was related to going international for growth. It's like, where do you get your growth? And you heard a lot about loyalty and membership and subscriptions and pre-orders, right? These are things coming from existing customers where companies are doing a really good job, some of them, of getting really close to their customers, understanding the data and providing them more products and services to increase the revenue without having to search necessarily for new customers. So you heard like a Chewy, where I think 75% of their revenue came from customers that have some kind of subscription. Additionally, their baskets were bigger than ever. So you heard that, you hear that leveraging, you heard that from Vail Resorts, where they were doing really well with pre-orders going into the next season. So that's, are you kind of focusing on and reinvesting in your existing customers? You can try to go deeper with them, or are you going international, or are you going down market? That's with a recession, a sideways, interest rate, high inflation environment, already here in a recession looming. You heard a lot of talk about customers, and companies potentially lowering prices, going down market, shifting product mix. And some companies did do that, going to new customer bases by adjusting their prices, adjusting their product mix, even adjusting some of their channels of distribution. So listening for that, are they going for their existing deep relationships with their current customers? The Vail, the Lululemon, Tractor Supply has a really strong membership program. Or are they searching internationally or changing, lowering prices to find new markets, grow their TAM, as they like to say. Those are 5 points from the last, let's say, 2 months of earnings call. I'm really excited for the back half of the year in the well-being economy. If you want to know more, follow me at David J. Miller, PhD, on social media. Thanks, and talk to you soon.